soon as I get the update that we went live, I will go ahead and go in on it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Whew. We had an interesting week. Upset week. This coming week is kind of a down week, I would say. What do you think?
Yeah. There's a couple interesting games, but probably relative. I mean, there's, Texas, Oklahoma State.
Yeah, that's a pretty decent one.
Interested in, but
Big Ten's just like I'm pretty sure Ohio State and Penn State both have a bye this week, and
there's a decent SEC game. I can't quite think of it. There's LSU Kentucky, which is mildly interesting.
That was last week, but yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It's Kentucky and Georgia you're thinking of.
Kentucky, Georgia.
Well, and with that, we are live. Everybody, welcome to the Drop the Gloves podcast, episode 6. We're in week 7 now. I'm your host, Paul Leary, and I'm joined by the man himself, the former columnist for SMA News Today, Mr. Ryan Berhar. How you doing today, Ryan?
Wow, that's a fantastic intro.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah, I gotta note your credibility. How's that?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
We don't pick up bozos to be on the show around here. But 6 episodes in, a lot farther than the last podcast that I thought I'd try to do. And with that, we're going to go ahead and jump into, the recap of last week, of week 6. So I updated the stream and how everything looks now. And I made it with where it has the current spreads. CBS Sports was good for this. And I think that's going to be my main go-to from now on, Ryan. It shows me the spreads, who covered, who didn't. And I also do it with my predictions as well. Makes it a lot easier.
Very nice.
We have some very ignorant comments coming in here. 1 second. I think we are actually going to be joined by the man CJ. I asked him to fill in, and he said he is down. So that's fine with you, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, he should be able to join here. But we're going to go back to where we were. Okay. Starting it off, recap of week 6. Coastal Carolina with a 52-20 victory over Arkansas State. The spread was 20, and Coastal Carolina covered.
Yeah, they're continuing to be pretty impressive.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm gonna see if CJ joins.
I'm in.
What's up, Noah Halleck 55? Do you know what you were talking about? Well, I hope so, Noah Halleck. I haven't seen you in the stream before, but a little background here for new viewers. I got, like I said before, my co-host Ryan, the writer columnist. I have to give him his credibility, and then CJ and I both went to school for sports media and broadcasting, and have our own show. We had a radio show. Who has Coastal played? Not anybody too spectacular, but they're winning convincingly, and I'll get into that more on the show today. And CJ, I wanted to wait for you to join to talk to you about this game, because this is one you attended, and that is Cincinnati just takes care of business against Temple 52-3, and they were favored by 30 in this game.
Oh, I mean, they should have been favored by 30, and people who sit there and they're like, oh, well, UC don't play nobody, which is Smiley in the chat. They sit there, they act like they're not that good of a team, they're overrated. They beat Notre Dame. And I know you're going to bring up something later in the show, which we can say right now real quick, talent versus what other teams get, like better players, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the recruiting levels, I 100% understand it.
Notre Dame has better recruiting. There's no excuse that they should be losing that game. Now, UC is a great team, and they went in there and won, and that showed it this week. They went out there and absolutely blew them out. They were, at halftime, it wasn't that good. Like, the 17-3, and then they just absolutely obliterated them in the second half.
Yeah, and the thing about Cincinnati, this isn't a turnover freshman type recruiting type of team. This is one of the most mature teams in America. They have 4 guys that are going to be playing on Sunday starting on their defense, and they have the best corner in America on their team. Cincinnati is a very legit team to me. They don't seem like a team that's going to slip up. They got their head on their shoulders, but their schedule does not favor them when it's going to come to comparing resumes down the road, but we will get more into that. So let's move on here. Arizona State defeats Stanford 28-10. Ryan, Arizona State looking like the team to beat behind Oregon in the Pac-12 right now. Arizona State covered the 13.5 spread as they easily handled Stanford at home.
Yeah, they've definitely been the ones to sort of emerge in the South. We were thinking early it was maybe UCLA, but they've tailed off a little bit. And then, USC is kind of in disarray. So they're clearly and then Stanford, of course. They beat us, but I mean they're not that great. So yeah, I mean Arizona State's kind of emerged.
Yeah, they seem to be being starting to gel, as I would say. And as we get some more viewers and everybody coming along, I just want to preview the show a little bit for everybody. We're going to go over the recap. We got our rankings coming up. I got some trivia. I got some worry level, stress level for teams high-low for them to go over. Then we're going to go ahead and give our predictions for the week. Now we're going to move on to the Saturday games. That is the game that I was at on Saturday, and that was Ohio State versus Maryland. Ohio State was favored by 21.5 in this game. The over-under was 71.5, and Ohio State won by 49, 66-17, almost covering the over on their own. Maryland scored the first points in this game, a field goal. After that, Ohio State's first string proved why they're the best offense in America right now. Every possession here, guys, every single possession that these starters were on the field from the first through the fourth quarter, they scored a touchdown. Not a field goal, not a punt, anything. The punter did not come out in this game.
Yeah. I mean, that's great, but Maryland has not been impressive lately.
Yeah, the last 2 weeks, I definitely agree with that. I was a little high on Maryland considering they went on the road to beat West Virginia, but I guess that hasn't showed too much.
You had them in your rankings at one point.
They started 4-0.
Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, the last 2 weeks have been really rough.
Yeah, they got destroyed by Iowa and Ohio State. Maybe we'll have to see how they fare against the rest of the Big Ten. Now a game here for you, CJ. Florida covers against Vanderbilt 42-0. Second time in the last 3 weeks that Vanderbilt has been shut out. And if the committee and I ever agree on something, it's that Vanderbilt might be the worst team in the Power 5. Florida wins by 42 with teams losing in front of them, and they still don't move up because I don't think this is like when Elder beat Kills in high school and didn't get a point for winning, and it kept them out of the playoffs. 42-0 Vanderbilt. What's the story there? They lost to an FCS school earlier this year.
I mean, there's a baseball school. When was the last time Vanderbilt was actually good? I mean, you can go back and look at kind of like all the middle of the pack to like the big to the SEC. I mean, a lot of them, they were good a couple 10 years ago, but after that they just weren't the same. I mean, you think of Ole Miss, they're good this year. Before that, I don't think they were relevant for 7 years.
Yeah, and that Smiley603 in the chat does not like to hear that.
Well, no, I'm not even saying that because he's in the chat. I'm saying it just for it's the simple. And you also got to look at Arkansas. When was the last time they were good? Like it's nothing to take it against them. It's just like the recruiting has gone so much in the other way. They go to Ohio State, they go to Oklahoma, they go to Alabama, like they go to Clemson. They're moving around. They're not going to all the SEC schools anymore.
Yeah, I agree.
And
keeping up with
Florida
our chat,
is just that much better than them.
Yeah, Florida really impressed against Alabama, but that showed the crack in the armor that A&M was able to get the blow through. But Dorchek 21, I agree with you, man, brother. Big Ten is better than the SEC. I've been saying that for weeks now. There's plenty of proof to back it up right now, but we'll get more into that potentially down the line. Now, Ryan, we got this game for you. Team you weren't sold on, maybe still not sold to. Number 11, Michigan State travels to Rutgers as they win 31-13. They won by 18. They were only favored by 4 in this game.
I mean, why do you say I'm not sold on them?
I'm pretty sure you said you weren't sold on them, unless it was CJ. CJ, was that you?
It was me, and I'm still not sold.
Yeah. You can.
I'm sorry.
I can go ahead and.
I'm sorry for that.
TJ can go ahead and address that if you want. I think Michigan State's good. I mean, I have no issues with them.
Yeah, they have a player that is on my Heisman list now. One of the best
running back.
No, I'll agree with you there being on the Heisman list. But here's the thing I look at. They don't have a great win, and that's nothing to take away from them because Alabama also beat Miami. Miami's horrible. But they are a Power 5 team, which you can use in an argument. Okay, at least they played a Power 5 team, right?
Yeah, out of conference, Power 5. I respect it.
When you look at it, they don't play a good team until they play Michigan. And if they beat Michigan, then I will change my mind and say this team might actually be for real. But they play Indiana this week, which I just don't think is going to be. I think they'll steamroll them. This isn't the same Indiana we saw last year. Penix, in my opinion, is overrated.
Yeah.
But when they play Michigan, which their time hasn't been decided for that game yet, which it could be game day, depending on, well, if they both win this week, that'd be next week. Yeah. That'd be a good game.
Yeah, I agree with you. But the only thing for Michigan State for me is them winning out of conference like that, going to Miami and winning, is carrying a lot of weight, I think, for, what the AP, Associated Press, are seeing right now. And it kind of makes sense. Like I said and you said, they have one of the best running backs in the country. And if they keep on doing what they're doing, though, here, they were a 4-point favorite and blew the doors off of Rutgers, which they should be doing if you're going to be that high of a rank. When it comes down to Michigan State, though, they have one of the hardest stretch of schedules in the entire country at the end of the year. They have
there's no doubt about that.
Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State, and they might be within 3 weeks of each other. That's just brutal.
Ohio State and Penn State are back-to-back. There's like a 3-week gap from Michigan to Ohio State.
Okay, that's not as bad then, but that's still not an easy schedule down the stretch. Now, CJ, I know I just talked to you on this one, but this is probably one I'd want to bring up with you more than Ryan. You have some more passion for it than me. Ole Miss beats Arkansas 52-51, and Arkansas covered the 5-point spread. Over/under on this game was 66.5. I would have bet the over with my house on this. Ole Miss defense couldn't stop a blind snail. They literally give up the most points in the Power 5.
I mean, you look at both of them. I mean, even Georgia, you could tell from the last week when they got beat 37-0 that this was probably going to be an offensive shootout because they literally gave up 37 points. But you're also not playing that Georgia defense. I mean, it's tough because Ole Miss does have one of the best quarterbacks probably in college football. There's no doubt about that. But, I mean, you can't give up 52. You can't give up 52 points and expect to win a game. That's just as clear as it goes.
But you can give up 48. Never mind. Sorry for that dig.
I didn't say that.
No, I'm just messing with you. But, no offense to either one of these teams, Arkansas or Ole Miss, but this looks like a Big 12 game.
Yeah.
Like, this hurts. Now, I'm not going to say it hurts the entire SEC, but Ryan, what have you always heard about the SEC? Their defense, right? You've heard about SEC defense compared to Big 12 or so. You don't see two teams putting up over 50 points on each other in the SEC.
That has changed a little bit, though. I mean, this isn't the SEC of 10 years ago where we had the, 9-6
Yeah.
Alabama LSU games. I mean, we see some shootouts. Alabama is in a lot of shootouts. So, yeah, you're right to an extent, but like, it's not to the Big 12 kind of levels, but it's not like it used to be either in terms of really good defense.
Yeah, well, I let me reword that because that kind of came off not the way I wanted it. This I feel like would almost look bad on any conference, not just the SEC. Like defense wise, like if this was the ACC or the Big Ten, it would look bad as well. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, it just looks bad in general. I mean,
like okay, I guess the defenses just don't go out on the field. And another game that the defenses don't go out on the field here. I probably brought in the two worst people to go against because it's going to be a 1v2 here, but Oklahoma defeats Texas 55-48. Oklahoma covers their 4-point favorite. Another game I would have bet my house on the over of 65. What indicated that this would be a under 65-point game?
This was one of the best games I've ever seen in my entire life. That game was insane.
Yeah, I agree. One of the most entertaining college football games of all time. We all agree with that, right?
It was
eyes
like
glued to the screen action. 28-7 comebacks, whatever you want.
In the first quarter.
Yeah.
And Texas scored twice in the first 2 minutes. It felt like an entire game happened in the first quarter. And then Oklahoma had the quarterback change.
Yeah, that drops Rattler out of the Heisman.
Is important for a few reasons. Yep. Williams, the other quarterback, he looked really good. To perform like that and under that kind of pressure in your first not even a start, like just being thrown into the fire. He did really well.
Yeah, I agree. Caleb Williams impressed me. I don't think all of the blame goes to Rattler though. I'll say that. I know CJ agrees with me, but
I'll say this about the game: the fact that they were able to go, they were down 28-7.
Yeah.
The fact that they could even come back from that is impressive. And now people can look at me and say, okay, they're the sixth team in the country. Now what? The fourth team in the country, according to the AP. They can't go down 28-7, but they showed they can come back from that. And then for the Rattler situation, they still have not named a starter for Saturday, so they're not 100% guaranteeing that Williams will start. But I mean, you got to look. It's the Big 12. Year in, year out, we see it every year. They go high-scoring games, and the committee has never taken points off for it. They've never decreased their ranking. That's how it's been, and they've been consistent with it. That's how I will say that.
Well, here's how I will say it. That's the reason that the Big 12 hasn't won a game in the playoffs.
That's
right, exactly why.
There's also been no other team better to put in.
But these teams have had chances to do it, and they still lose. That's my point. How is this year different? This looks like 55-48 could have been Oklahoma last year. Could have been Oklahoma 2 years ago.
That's not what I mean by different.
Here's my point.
My point of being different is you have two other teams that deserve that shot.
Okay.
The other years, you didn't have that. It was either they put a Big 12 team in or you put somebody in like UCF.
Yeah, I can see that. I thought you were going a different route with that, but here's the route I'm going. It's impressive to score 55. It's unimpressive to give up 48. Texas has lost 2 times now. They got blown out by Arkansas, right? And I don't want to sound like an Oklahoma hater because I had them ranked in my top 3 before the season started. Here's how it goes, though. College football is not the NFL. You don't just win and you get by. If you don't win with fashion points, you're going to drop. If you don't win convincingly, you're going to drop. Now, let me ask you guys this. I did much number crunching as I possibly could over the weekend. And this isn't to hate at all. I want Oklahoma to be good and to be convincingly good like they have been in past years. Yeah, they might have a 55-48 and then they'll have a 60-10 after that. You know what I mean? If you count Oklahoma's games against FBS schools, not FCS, Western Carolina and all that, Division I, Power 5 schools, they have the lowest margin of victory in the entire top 25. It's 5.7 points in their games. 5. If they did this one time, it'd be okay. They don't. They do it to Tulane. They do it to West Virginia. They do it to Texas here. They do it to Nebraska. They do it to Kansas State. I did not move them up by giving them a pass for giving up 50 points. No way in my mind they would jump Cincinnati, who wins by 49, because that's what you're supposed to do. If Texas is number 21 and you're number 6, how is that a one-score game? I understand it. It's a rivalry, all this on the road. Stakes are high. Good teams go down early, right? It happens. You see it happen all the time. You know, but here's the difference. Alabama went down early last year in games. 2 games come to mind. They went down early in the Florida game. But the difference between those games are, yeah, they were down 28-7, and then they might win 45-28. Not Texas keeps scoring and scoring on them. They're like, where does it end? Let me ask you this, okay? If Alabama or Ohio State give up 48 points in a game, what is everybody going to say? Are they going to talk about how good of a win that is, or are they going to talk about how bad their defense played? They're going to talk about how bad their defense played.
It depends on who you play.
They shouldn't be giving up 50 points to anybody.
100% depends on who you play. Because if you're playing Georgia and you're in Alabama, say Ohio State plays Penn State with their starting quarterback, it could be a 40-point game. You could straight up, it could be a shootout. Nobody's going to say how bad their defense was. They're going to talk about how good the offenses was.
Like I said, it's about how you win. If you don't win convincingly, then you're not proving to me that you're one of the best teams in the country. If it was winning by winning, Oklahoma already dropped, though. That's the thing. Number 3 and 4 did play. It was 23-20.
Okay, but I'm saying if Ohio State and Penn State played, and one of them didn't win convincingly, we're going to drop them because of that? No. You can't.
Yeah, I didn't say that. I said if you give up 50 points. Like, there's a difference between winning convincingly. Florida won 42-0. They didn't win 42-38. They won 42-0.
2 years ago, when Burrow was still at LSU, Alabama and them were in a shootout. It was a high-scoring game. Does that mean both their defenses were horrible?
The next week, LSU would beat somebody 60-5.
But that 1 week, they gave up over 40 or 50 points in a shootout. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you're soloing out one solo game. Oklahoma does this every time. I have the numbers right in front of me. Who do you think are the 2 defenses in the top 25 that give up the most points?
Ole Miss and Oklahoma.
Ole Miss and Oklahoma, 100%.
You keep winning, you're not going to take them out. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying you can go in there and give up 48 points. I'm saying that if you keep winning, it's hard to take people out.
Well,
you can keep dropping them, but you're not going to keep dropping them by much if they keep winning when other schools around them are dropping.
No, I will drop them if they keep on squeaking by Tulane.
Well, this is what I've said to you, Paul. Like, well, maybe not on the show, but like privately, is like, I mean, it's premature to even have these conversations, really, because if like we're talking about like playoff, caliber, and it's like if Oklahoma is in fact playoff caliber, they will win I mean, they'll have to win all their games. And the thing is, like, if you're right and they're in fact not that great, then they're gonna lose to somebody, and this will just take care of itself. You see what I'm saying? But like for now, you gotta give them their credit. I mean, they're winning. Like, if you want to drop them a little bit, that's fine. Like, I know we've talked a lot about Oklahoma versus Ohio State.
Yeah, and I have a list 50 miles long about it.
You've actually, honestly, like, you've pretty much convinced me on that one.
Good.
So I have to give you that. Like, because I mean, Ohio State's, they have a loss, and Oklahoma doesn't.
Right.
But Ohio State's literally better at everything.
Yeah.
And they're in a harder conference. So I get that. I understand that.
I appreciate the open-mindedness, Ryan. I got to say that. Now, I haven't given these numbers to CJ real quick or to the show, but let me just give it real quick. Real quick. I'm not going to get into it too much. But I did all the number crunching this weekend on my own because when you come to the Drop the Gloves podcast, we don't make blanket statements. That's correct, isn't it, Ryan? If you don't have proof to back up what you're saying, you're not coming on. So the strength of schedule for the entire year right now, which fluctuates as teams go in and out of the rankings, Ohio State's strength of schedule is 4th in the country. Oklahoma's sitting at 52nd. Defensive-wise, Oklahoma is averaging 23 points given up a game. Ohio State is averaging 20. In between them is Alabama. So Ohio State right now, points-wise, has a better defense than Alabama. But if you hear Ohio State get knocked for their defense, you have to knock Alabama and Oklahoma at the same time is what I'm saying. Offensively, let me see if you guys know this. Which offense is currently scoring the most points in college football? That goes to Ohio State. They're averaging 48 points a game. Oklahoma is averaging 37. Still really good.
Hey, but this is the thing. What are you basing that off of?
All the points they've scored.
Weeks?
All their games this year. It's their average points per game.
They played one good team. That's the thing. Like,
so did Oklahoma.
You got to wait until both those teams start playing against the high teams in their conference.
You're right. That's why Oklahoma's defensive points could go up too. But as of right now, Ohio State has the best offense in the country. They've scored the most points, and they average the most points per game. Now, I also have this here. The average margin of victory between these two teams. So teams that they've played. And before I hear the argument that Ohio State has only played one good team, may I remind you that Tulane and Western Carolina are also on the schedule for Oklahoma. Oklahoma has an average margin of victory of 17.3 points, which is not that bad. I mean, that's 2 scores. Ohio State doubles that with a 35-point average margin of victory. And ranked games on the schedule this year, you have Ohio State with 4, all in the top 10, and then Oklahoma had 2 with Oklahoma State and Texas. So, as of right now, no, I do not give the nod to Oklahoma, even if they are undefeated, because they're playing too close in their games. But to back it up, as you guys are saying, I'm not trying to be a hater of them. I didn't even drop them. I just kept them in the same spot. Because I don't think teams below them are better than them. I'm going to give Oklahoma their credit where they're at, but I'm not going to move them up for things that I think are unimpressive, and I don't think that's really a crazy take.
I don't think nobody's saying that's a crazy take, but what I'm saying is, what you said earlier, you're supposed to beat teams by what they should. Maryland, against every other team except for ranked teams, have looked very unimpressive. You can go back and look at it. They have not looked impressive when they played a ranked team.
Who?
Maryland.
Yeah, and that's why the Ohio State spread was 21.5, and they beat them by 49, because there's always an old saying when it comes to sports. Good teams win, great teams cover. And if your spread is 4 points versus 21.5, and you're still dominating that spread. Florida covered. UC covered. The Michigan State was favored by 4. They won by 18. Ohio State was favored by 21. Like I said, they won by 50. That's what I'm talking about. Oklahoma has not had a game besides against Western Carolina that's been more than 10 points apart. I want Oklahoma to be good. I like Rattler. I don't want them to give up on him completely yet. I like Lincoln Riley, but start being Oklahoma. Start being the real Oklahoma, the team that dominates this Big 12, because the Big 12 doesn't hold a candle to the SEC or the Big 10 this season. Win it convincingly to prove that you should have an argument there. And right now, that's where I'm at with Oklahoma, because I say it every week in and out. Ryan, what do I say when we pick games? When Oklahoma comes up, is this going to be the week that Oklahoma finally wakes up? What if this is the team that's woke up? That's what it's starting to stick with to me.
Well, I mean, I kind of feel like they woke up, but I'm kind of basing that on the quarterback change. I think that's going to be a positive thing, assuming they stick with Williams, which I think they should.
Right. Now, we're going to move on to the next game now. CJ, this one might be a little bit more for you. SMU beats Navy 31-24. Navy covered the 13.5. SMU was down late in this game, but eventually pulled through to move to 6-0.
This is one of the most underrated teams, I think, in football and in the rankings. I mean, a lot of people. One, is Navy good?
They're 1-4.
Not really.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're 6-0. What was this team last year? Like, you can go look at their wins and who they played, but this only helps UC. The more they win, this only helps UC. And Tanner Mordecai, he played at Oklahoma last year. Rattler beat him out. He transferred this year. He could have easily started for Oklahoma last year. And to sit here and see him on SMU now, and then with them being in the top 24, I have them as one of my most underrated teams in college football.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, I knew you would have more to say about it. And if they stay undefeated, that's going to do nothing but good for Cincinnati as well. It's Houston who has one loss, but if they keep winning, that's only going to look good for them as well. Next game here, Ryan. Oh, gosh. In overtime, Wake Forest defeats Syracuse 40-37. Syracuse covered the 6-point spread. Jeez, ACC's highest-ranked team beats a team by a field goal that lost to Rutgers.
Yeah, I mean, not very good, huh?
Yeah, I mean, Wake Forest is probably the worst 6-0 team in the rankings.
Oh, man. That's, yeah, for sure.
Do you have any objections to that, CJ?
I mean, not really. We got to see what real Kentucky team we're going to see. That's all I'll say to that.
Not a bad take either. Now, talking about good teams win, great teams cover. Georgia beats Auburn 34-10 on the road. Georgia covered the 14.5 spread. This is the best team in the country right now, folks.
Yeah. Yeah, they're dominant. I remember you were looking at the points allowed.
Yeah, 4.5 points going into this one.
4.5?
Yeah, going into actually that it might have went up from then because that was before
I think
the
it's
Auburn game.
5.
It's 5, yeah.
I think it's like 5 now.
So they've actually gone up 1
insane.
point. It's 5.5 points per game. So the top 5 in the country. CJ, who do you think is number 2 in points per game allowed in the country?
Iowa.
Cincinnati.
Iowa or Wisconsin.
Cincinnati is only allowing 12 points. Iowa is actually 4th. 3rd is Penn State at 13.8. Then Iowa's at 14.6.
I don't care what anybody says. If Penn State's quarterback Clifford was still in that game, they win that game. That offense looked absolutely horrible after he got it.
Completely agree with that.
I also agree with that.
Iowa got bailed out, and if they were to play Ohio State tomorrow, they would absolutely get destroyed because they cannot score more than 15 to 20 points a game.
Well, I agree that Penn State would have won the game. I picked Penn State to win. Penn State, to me, Clifford should be back. They're on a bye this week, but Penn State seemed like the better team on the football field. I mean, no offense to Penn State fans, but that backup was kind of hard to watch. I got to say, it got really tough to watch. His first possession had 3 false starts on it in a row. That can't be happening. But the fact that he came in and Penn State was good enough to keep this to a field goal game on the road after Clifford went down. I mean, they were up 17-3 in this game.
Yeah, I mean, the guy was missing, like, open receivers. You know, like, if you can just connect on a few of those, on a few of those passes, like, they might have still been able to win. But they just could do nothing after the Clifford injury.
Yeah, they couldn't do anything on offense, and some of that, I'm not going to say it's 100% on Penn State's backup. I think Iowa's defense isn't that bad either. I mean, they're pretty good as well. But Penn State's defense proved to be better than Iowa's, I would say. I mean, multiple times Penn State's defense came through in this game, and all that does is prove to me that I think Penn State's the better team than Iowa, even after this loss. And I think that maybe the AP didn't show it as much, but I think Penn State, they didn't drop out of contention.
No, I mean, if you win, I mean, they got the bye week this week, and I'm pretty sure they play Ohio State next week. Could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure
they play Ohio State on the 30th, so there's probably a game between them. Ohio State plays Indiana after their bye week. So
you had to, if you beat Ohio State, then you're back in contention with possibly a 3-way tie for the Big Ten West, because you don't know what Michigan State's going to do. You don't know what Michigan's going to do. Potentially a 2-loss Ohio State team or a 2-loss Penn State team.
Yeah, and Penn State plays Illinois, by the way, next week.
Yeah, then they play Ohio State.
Yeah.
I knew it was coming up.
Yeah, I mean, the spread on this, Iowa covered a 2.5. This is one of the cases I'll say that it's not good teams win, great teams cover when you have such a low point spread. I mean, you're basically, what game ends within 2? Like, that's kind of rare. You know what I mean? Like, especially in football when field goals are 3. It's just not a very common occurrence. So, over under a 41 on this game, and they still covered the over. 23-20. They must really have thought that this, I mean, these are two of the best defenses in the country. I'm not surprised it was low scoring, but I really wish I could have seen this game play out with Sean Clifford at quarterback the whole time.
That's going to be the biggest what if of the season.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Yeah. That's true. Now, moving on to one that we talked about a little bit, Ryan. Boise State upsets BYU 26-17. Boise State covered the 6, obviously, by winning outright.
Yeah, that was a huge upset. I remember you said last week, Boise State's been known to do that from time to time, and they sure did, and that's a big loss for BYU. I mean, they needed to,
they needed to dominate.
They could not afford the loss. So, I think most people, myself included, never necessarily bought into them.
Yeah.
So now with a loss, it's like that. Yeah, I mean, that hurts quite a bit.
Yeah, I agree. Now, one of the games that I think me and you were wrong on, CJ, LSU goes to Kentucky. Kentucky wins 42-21 in this game. Kentucky was only favored by 2 points. But Kentucky ends up winning by 3 touchdowns. They were in control of this whole game, which I got to give my props to the Kentucky Wildcats football team. They are proven to be better than I thought, but they still, I don't think, are really that great. They played an unranked team. They should be doing this. So I'll see what happens when they play Georgia this week.
The same. I want to see what they do to Georgia. If they play a close game against Georgia, and I think they're the real deal.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. But, I don't like to trust traditionally schools that aren't consistently good year to year. The pop-up schools, they might be 6-0, but Kentucky played Chattanooga 28-23 this year.
And beats Florida.
Yeah.
It's the year of college football, man. That's all I got to say. Nothing makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely slow buying into Kentucky. I had them I barely had him in my rankings last week,
Yeah, I think you had him at
but
25.
I moved him up 10 spots.
Yeah, I saw that. That was a
Because
considerable.
Yeah, because I just thought, okay, they're, I mean, beating LSU, like, that proves that they're, I mean, and given everything else they've done, like, I'm on board with them as a solid team now. I'll give them solid.
Yeah, that's what I want to give them to. Like, you guys are all right. I wouldn't say you guys are great, but you guys are all right.
Yeah, but like last week, I was like, I don't know about these guys. But now I'm like, okay, I've seen enough to give them their credit.
Yeah, that's a team they lose to in the past. But then again, that's not the same LSU team. But we'll move on from that. A game that Cincinnati desperately needed, CJ. Notre Dame goes to Virginia Tech, and they were only favored by 1. They covered the 1, 32-29. Notre Dame, another team that their margin of victory is the second lowest.
I mean, they got to win. If they don't win out, then it's UC. It doesn't help them at all. At that point, you're hoping SMU does something to at least get maybe top 15, so you can get another good win. But other than that, I mean, it's Notre Dame. Well, what more do you expect? I mean, this team, past couple of years, everybody says they've been overrated. They did make the playoffs, but what can you do? It's college football year in, year out. You're not going to have the same team every year unless you're somebody like Ohio State or Alabama. And UC went on the road to beat them, and Notre Dame struggled. I know that every quarterback, they've gone through, 3 quarterbacks?
Yeah, that never works.
Rotating them?
Yeah, they just rotating 3 quarterbacks, and Notre Dame's notoriously good offensive line just bad this year.
And that's horrible on Brian Kelly right there. Pick one and stick with one. If I were them, I'd stick with Drew Pine.
So would I. Pine Cone, Ryan. So moving on here to another 32-29 game. Michigan goes to Nebraska and almost gets upset. They win 32-29. They covered their 2.5. Matt's upset prediction of the week of Nebraska almost came to fruition. I'm sorry.
Dude, Matt last week he convinced me to pick Nebraska.
They almost won.
We were almost right.
Yeah,
but not quite.
Now, does this game tell you more about Michigan or Nebraska?
I would say
let me ask
Nebraska,
you this.
But
go ahead. So you base it. So you said that Oklahoma only beat them by what?
A touchdown.
So then, what's this mean for Michigan?
That they have 4 other games that they've won by 30.
And what did they do last week or the week before against Rutgers?
They won by a touchdown. That's also why they're not That's why they're not moving up.
But that's my point. Like, why not use that for the same thing as Michigan?
Because they've done it in 2 games, not 5.
The same teams, though. I mean, that was the biggest thing. People were saying Oklahoma, Nebraska, and they came out.
Tulane.
Nebraska is what? They played how many ranked teams close?
They played the hardest. They have they've played 5 teams in the top 10 in their schedule this year.
But it was only used against Oklahoma, is my point.
Well, I wasn't really knocking them for necessarily only Nebraska. It's the whole thing. Michigan has blowout wins on their resume. They dominated Washington. They dominated teams, and Washington's better than Tulane. Washington's better. I mean, they might not be better than West Virginia. West Virginia's not good either, though. Kansas State, they're not good. Like,
no,
I'm not completely sold on Michigan either. Before we get into that, like I said, I think Michigan loses to Ohio State, Penn State. I think they lose to Iowa. I think Michigan State would beat them right now, and it's not even just a total knock on Michigan. It's just when you don't win convincingly, you don't convince me. It goes straight up to that. I mean, that could be my slogan, I guess. If you don't win convincingly, you don't convince me, and that's the way it is. Because Ryan, you used to be about the eye test as well.
Well, I still am to a point, but I mean, at the end of the day, like winning is, I mean, that's what you need to do, and you know, I mean, it's hard. It's really, really hard to win.
Yeah.
Uh, in college football, it's hard to like win all your games. So if you do it and you maybe don't do it convincingly, I mean, still like you're winning. Um,
That's fair. I don't want to go too long on this because we've been pretty long on here on the recap. But San Diego State dominates New Mexico, 31-7. They covered the 19.5. Not really much to say about that except San Diego State stays undefeated, right, guys? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
yeah,
who cares game.
Yeah. Now the last game I want to talk about here is the last game, the biggest one of the weekend. Texas A&M upsets Alabama 41-38. You guys think Texas A&M covered? It was 18.5 point spread that Alabama was favored, and Texas A&M won outright. And I have a memory on my post from 2 years ago today that I said Texas A&M is overrated. So I'm still standing on that hill from 2 seasons ago. I said Texas A&M needed to get that big win, right? You guys have heard me say it? If you thought this was a podcast of me talking about I've turned the table on Texas A&M and they're legit, you are wrong. That's not true. Texas A&M was legit. They would win this game and be 6-0 or 5-1. But they're not. They lost to Mississippi State last week. Mississippi State lost to Memphis. Can say I'm going far in the rabbit hole. But Texas A&M also didn't win convincingly against Colorado. Texas A&M got boat raced by Arkansas. They have a backup quarterback, but then they show up against Alabama. Here's the thing for Alabama for me. They've shown more cracks in their armor this season than the past season. And here's the reason why. 100% here's the reason why. The Florida game and this game, which was a loss. This is not the same Alabama team. This is not Mac Jones. This is not Tua. This is Bryce Young's Alabama team.
yeah, we know you love Mac Jones.
I love Mac Jones. Best quarterback in college history. But they don't have those guys on this team. They are young. Remember when I said that about Ohio State, too? The three youngest teams in college football are Alabama, Ohio State, and Clemson. And obviously, look what's going on with Clemson. They are not that great.
You got to look at it all, though. Like, one, there's no excuse for Alabama to lose this game. It's embarrassing. But they are young, and this is exactly what they needed to hopefully get them in the right direction. Now, they can go undefeated for the rest of the year. Their schedule going out is not that hard. Mississippi State, Tennessee, LSU. That's your next 3 weeks.
Wins. All 3 wins. Here's what I'm going to say.
New Mexico State, that should be a win. Arkansas, you were hoping Arkansas wins out until they get there. That is what you were hoping if you were Alabama. You go to the Iron Bowl. That always gives them a highway on what they do. If they go there and they win the SEC championship game, I'm not saying they're going to. I'm saying if they do, Alabama will still make the playoffs, but we will not see the same teams as we did last year in Ohio State or Alabama.
I agree. But here is the only take I have away from this, CJ, this whole game. If you think I'm going to knock Alabama 12 spots, you're wrong. If you think I don't think Alabama is one of the best 4 teams in the country, you're wrong. Here's how it is that I see it. The Florida game and this game proved one thing to me. This isn't a team that everybody should just tote as, oh, well, they're untouchable. Oh, well, they're way better than everybody else. They're not on a different playing field than everybody else. They just lost to an unranked team. They just barely beat Florida. Which you can say, yeah, okay, but they did that one time. This is a wake-up call. Alabama could still be the best team in the entire country, but they're not untouchable.
No, but I look at it this way. You're going to lose. So Alabama went, 2 seasons?
No, 2019 they lost 2 games.
I forget how many games straight it was. You don't win 30 games straight. Like, you don't win 50 games straight. Like, you're going to lose sooner or later. You will lose.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's just college football.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the fact that we're looking at UC right now, other than that Georgia loss, you know how many games they won straight?
A lot.
It would have been 2 seasons worth. And then dating back to that, they lost 2 times.
Yeah, I agree. All I'm saying is Alabama can still be the best team in the country. You could say, I think Alabama's the best team in the country, and that's fine. But they're not untouchable.
Georgia.
I don't think Georgia's untouchable either.
Hey, that Georgia defense is scary, though.
I agree. Clemson played them to a 1-score game.
Yeah.
No team in the country is untouchable. Anybody could lose.
No one is ever untouchable in college football. I mean,
UC Barstool is, but
yeah, wow.
Like, but right? I mean, like, I mean that's your whole thing is that they're untouchable.
Well, it's more of the narrative that I see as, it's Alabama, Georgia, then there's everybody else. That's not true anymore.
Yeah, but you were saying that earlier in the year.
I was, but this game is a wake-up call. It's not a wake-up call just for Alabama to play better. It's, holy crap, these guys just lost to a team they were favored by 20 points over. That doesn't mean nothing to me. That means, like, well, maybe they are still one of the best teams, but it's not them and then everybody else. There's teams that could be in games with them.
It's them, Georgia, and everyone else.
No, I disagree with that because of the A&M game. Alabama gave up 41 points.
Might be a good time to get into the rankings now, but
perfect segue into the rankings. So, I got my rankings, Ryan rankings, AP rankings, Georgia across the board at number 1, Iowa at number 2 for me, and the AP rankings. Ryan still holds on to Alabama at number 2, CJ. He dropped them 1 spot, and I had to disagree with him. And he dropped Ohio State after winning by 50. I had to disagree there. My top 7, that as it sits, I kind of want to change my rankings last minute here. I want to flip-flop 7 and 8.
Thank you. I was literally about to say it.
I just looked at it and I was like, that's not right.
Which is
Penn State and Michigan. Penn State's better than Michigan.
Do you want me? Can I say what I think is wrong with the rankings first, since mine's not up here? I'm gonna do it for both of yours.
Okay. Well, also let me say one thing real quick before you get into that. Last week I was talking about how the AP got it right. This week I think the AP got it wrong, and I think that it's majorly the 4 and 5 spots. And I'm not saying it as anything. I don't think Oklahoma played good enough to move up, and I don't think Alabama was fairly scrutinized for their loss. They lost to an unranked team and dropped. I dropped them the same amount as the AP, but I didn't jump Oklahoma over them. Put it that way. Go ahead.
For your rankings, I don't like Coastal Carolina being at 10. I'd rather you move Michigan State there, even though I think they're highly overrated. North Carolina State, to me, I don't really... They're iffy. They're undefeated. But I like the fact where you have SMU. I really do.
Yeah.
But Oklahoma State, I think, could move up. That's my take on yours. Ryan, Alabama's got to move more than 1, man. I mean, I don't really like where UC is. I think UC should be in the top 4. But I guess you could say I'm biased being a UC fan. But losing to an unranked team, you got to drop them.
What do you think about number 10, CJ?
Number 10, Clemson shouldn't even be in the rankings at this point. I honestly didn't even see both at Clemson in there. They've done nothing to deserve to even be ranked.
Well, anyway, Ryan, do you want to defend your number 2 spot?
Yeah. As everyone knows by now, I'm very big on reputation in the sport of college football. And just last week, I think everyone, most people, agreed that Alabama and Georgia were clearly the two best. And I don't see what happened to change that. I mean, now I get like you can say they lost to an unranked team, but the way I look at it, I actually think, and I'm curious to know what you guys think about this, but I think losing to an unranked team makes it more of like a fluke than if they lost to someone who's relatively highly ranked. Like, say they lost to
Oregon?
Michigan or someone like that. Someone like that. Then you could say, well, maybe the better team just won. But like everyone knows, I mean, Paul, you of all people know, like A&M's not better than Alabama. It's just for whatever reason they had an off day. You know, it can happen. Like,
So you're saying it was a slip up?
Yeah, I mean,
I agree that it was a fluke.
Now,
I'm not discrediting that, but I think they got to drop more than one.
Well, and obviously, if you want to be kind of traditional about it, like, yeah, they should drop to 5. Like, that's where the AP put them.
That's where I put them.
And yeah, and I understand that completely. But like in my rankings, I just don't want to put someone who I think is significantly better behind people who
So can I ask you why Ohio State dropped after winning by that much?
Yeah, and I know you were on me about that, but I was not looking at it as Ohio State dropping. I was looking at it as Iowa improving. Because
do you think Iowa's better than Ohio State?
I think it's very, very close. Right now, I would say by a little bit, and I just think they have to be ranked higher than them right now. I think now Iowa, like, I would love to put them number 2, but to me they're not, like, because as we talked about earlier, we all think Penn State is better.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, that's why I didn't put them 2. But at the same time, it's like they did beat a top 5 team. So, Iowa, I was very conflicted about, like, but I thought, you know, gotta give them credit. But
this is why the rankings are so hard every week.
Too rich.
You can't put 2 teams at number 3. You know what I mean? Like, you can't do it. And
yeah, so
I think Cincinnati earned their spot, but I understand what you're saying. Like I said, you can still think. Like, I think Penn State and Michigan, which I flipped Penn State at 7. Like I said, I think there's a line though when it comes to best versus most deserving, and I think you kind of have to put both in there because if you know, say that your rankings were official, Ryan, you know what I mean, and Alabama loses to an unranked team and drops 1 spot, but Ohio State loses to Oregon and drops 8 spots. What is everybody in the entire country going to say?
I'll say this. I think what hurt Ohio State with that is it was the beginning of the year. If you were to tell me right now that, say they were in the same spot, right? Both these teams were undefeated going into the same week. And they lost by a touchdown. I don't think Ohio State drops 8 spots. I really don't. I think it being in the beginning of the year, everything getting mixed up, the committee didn't know what they were doing. The AP didn't know what they were doing. and they were just moving everybody around. I mean, Paul, we've seen it all year.
Yeah, but
do you really,
ultimately,
do you really think that Coastal Carolina or BYU should have been anywhere close to the top 10?
well, that's why I said you got to mix most deserving with best, because I don't think Coastal Carolina is better than Michigan State, but I have Michigan State behind them. But like I was saying, ultimately, though, I think losing early in the season is benefiting Ohio State because they at least have a chance to get back up there versus losing late in the year. Because
Definitely.
if you look at how the committee goes, it's always the earlier you lose, the more ground you can gain. Ohio State's road is right in front of them.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, Ohio State would have dropped, if they were 2-3 playing, they would have dropped to probably 7 or 8, so 5 spots. They still have, at that point, they still have Michigan, Penn State, possibly Iowa still to play. And
Michigan State, yeah.
So you're going to move back up regardless.
Yeah, I understand that.
It don't matter where you lose. Like, I mean, I think it hurts to lose earlier in the season. That's my opinion. Unless you lose 2 games and one came earlier in the season, one came later in the season, then it sucks at that point. But if you go undefeated after that, I think it's more beneficial to lose earlier in the season. Or later in the season.
I can see the argument that I still think if I'm going to lose once, I'd rather it early. Because at the end, everybody's always with the latest flavor. But here's the thing that I don't think people realize also, that I take into consideration in my rankings. And you could say I'm biased for it, but I don't think so. Teams can be different and develop throughout the year. I think, Ryan, you said it as well. The same team that you play in week 2 might not be the same team you play in week 12. That's why teams are hard to beat twice in 1 year. When you look at teams playing in like the Big 12 and such, when they play in the championship game, usually the same team doesn't dominate the second time they play. I think that personally, I think Ohio State's a better team than the beginning of the year, and they've turned a corner. If you ask me, if Ohio State's playing Penn State weeks 1 through 3, I think Ohio State loses. You ask me if they play right now, I think Ohio State's the best team in the Big Ten right now. You can say that's bias or not, but I've watched their game through and through, and they look like a completely different team on both sides of the ball. But you could also call me biased for that, and that's fine. But moving on, we're going to talk about our Heisman hopefuls. Me and you both have a new number 1, Ryan. It's the same guy. Desmond Ridder for Cincinnati leads my Heisman rankings along with yours. Then number 2, I got Kenneth Walker, the running back for Michigan State. Number 3, I got Bijan Robinson from Texas. 4, I'm keeping Travion Henderson in his spot from Ohio State. He had a 3-touchdown day. And holding on to the last spot, I got Bryce Young from Alabama. Then Ryan, you got Desmond Ridder from Cincinnati, Bryce Young, Alabama, C.J. Stroud from Ohio State, Bijan Robinson from Texas, and Matt Corral from Ole Miss.
Yeah, so a couple questions.
Yeah.
About yours. First off, you have 3 running backs.
I do. Yeah, I do.
That's a bit extreme, I would say.
Well, here's the deal. This isn't, if you look at past years, I really think the quarterbacks, first off, so a lot of them are either young freshmen, which doesn't mean it takes it away from them, but I don't think this is as good of a quarterback year compared to past years. We've been spoiled the last 2 years when it comes to quarterbacks. 2019, just think about it alone. You had Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, all in college football playing at the same time. You know what I mean?
No, that's fair. I
think this year is just dominating by running backs. Because if you watch all 3 of the running backs I have play and look at their numbers, are you going to look at one and be like, well, he doesn't deserve it? I don't think that that's the case. I don't have Stroud in my top 5. I'm punishing him for the beginning of the year, and he's a true freshman. It's not necessarily punishing him. And Corral I have at 6. I just couldn't bring him up over Bryce Young. But I understand it, though.
That's fair, but, I have a hard time, I feel like I need to choose one running back to put in there, because realistically, it's just a quarterback award kind of, but I can see where you're coming from. And then the other thing was Walker. jumped from off your list to number 2. I was wondering about that too.
Yeah, so I have a couple good reasons for that. First thing I want to say is he was not in my top 5, but he was somebody who I had on the radar. And I just got to say, man, did you see the game against Rutgers? I'm assuming not.
No.
Not a lot of people did. 29 carries, 233 yards, 8-yard average. Now, that's Kenneth
I saw
Walker.
a highlight of his.
Now, if you go back to the game before that, 126 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's been consistent all year. But I'll be honest, he was kind of flying under my radar until I watched that game, and I was like, holy smokes, this guy is jumping off the screen. This is, he's the best player on their team. It's not even close. You get what I'm saying, to where it's like, they don't have him, they don't win. You go back to the Miami game, Ryan, 172 yards rushing. He's averaging over 7 yards a carry on the ground.
Yeah, that's fair. I felt like I needed to choose a running back, and I kind of like Robinson the best.
That's fair.
So
he's right behind him for me.
He's also been very consistent.
Yeah, I agree.
Guy's really, really good. And then as far as, I guess you dropped Young because of the loss, right?
Yeah, but it wasn't necessarily okay. It was an Ohio State thing more to you, that in your rankings type of deal. It's not necessarily that Young is dropping more than other players improving. Travion Henderson, again, I was at the game Saturday, 3 touchdowns. Light day for him. You have C.J. Stroud on your list. He's been the best quarterback in the last 2 weeks in college football. Over 500 yards passing, 10 touchdowns, no picks. I don't hate that pick at all. But between the 3 running backs that I have, I don't think that it's that deep at quarterback this year. But it's definitely going to change. And this is one of the first weeks of the Heisman where I'm really I think it's starting to take shape of probably who it's going to become more concrete around, because let's be honest, there's only been one guy on this list for me that started out in the beginning of the season on my list, and it's Bryce Young.
Yeah, well, he was kind of the favorite by everyone,
Yeah,
I don't know about that. Rattler was.
Remained there.
Going into the season, Rattler was.
I don't know about over Bryce, but yeah, Rattler was on my list, and by default, basically. But
mentioned that too.
Okay.
But yeah, as far as Stroud,
yeah. Speaking of Stroud, I just got a phone call about Stroud. Last 2 games, he has over 700 passing yards. I got that back. Not right, and they've outscored their opponents who haven't been very good, but they outscored their opponents 118-30.
And even in the Oregon game, his numbers looked really good. He wasn't playing that great, but I feel like ultimately that could be sort of forgotten. And, his numbers look really, really good. And I think that's going to carry a lot of weight. And as far as Ritter, I think he's just a really good combination of, his numbers are good, but they're also undefeated.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of a ideal, he's got kind of everything.
Yeah, and Matt made a good point last week about how he was Peyton and Eli camp and invited him, and you only get invited to that. Obviously, not anybody could go. And his improvements from last year to this year, be able to hit a deep ball and everything, are just a lot better. I think, CJ, you could mention something about Desmond Ritter.
Here's the thing with Ritter. Regardless of what happens, he's going to get discredited for what conference he plays in. So, do I like him being at number 1? I do. Do I think he is? No, I don't. I think you have it right here at the number 2 with Kenneth Walker. I'd personally put him 1, and I'd put Bryce Young. Like, if you were actually going to be real about it, I'd put Kenneth Walker 1, Bryce Young probably 2, B. John Robinson 3, Ritter 4, Trayvon Henderson 5. But I say that just because of what conference he's in. And, like, you see a lot of them. Paul Feinbaum hates the Bearcats. He cannot stand them. He doesn't even. I don't think he has them in his top 5. I could be wrong about that, but I know that he says they don't play in a good conference. They're an overrated team. How can you be overrated when you're defeating every team you play?
Convincingly.
I don't have them in my top 5 either, but I think they're really good. It's not. I have them at 6, and that's not because I don't think they're outstanding, but there's some other really good teams up there. So
Paul Feinbaum hates any team that doesn't play in the SEC. That's why he's on SEC Network.
And that is also true. Yeah.
So Paul Feinbaum will down talk Ohio State. He'll down talk Oklahoma. He'll down talk anybody that's not playing in the Southeastern Conference. But he especially hates the mouth of the South. But he especially hates teams that aren't in the Power 5 that could get recognition. He hated on UCF a couple years back. Moving on, I have kind of something I want to go over just slightly. This isn't anything too big. I actually kind of want to skip over this because we've been kind of long and it's can kind of be a topic for another time. So I'm going to go for the worry now because I wanted to bring on Matt for the other part. You guys are perfectly okay with that, I'm sure. So I'm going to ask you the worry level for a few teams. I think it's only 3 or 4, and you tell me high or low, okay? Worry level for Oklahoma, high or low?
I think somewhere in the middle.
What do you think, CJ? Not feeling it, huh, CJ? So, Ryan.
Dude, I didn't hear him.
Yeah, I didn't hear him either. CJ?
My bad. What is it?
The worry level for Oklahoma, high or low?
I wouldn't go high or low. I'd go medium. if that's an option.
You guys both just took this. That's the whole point of the whole segment is to pick one.
Well,
but
okay,
all right.
well, here's the thing. I think if you were asking me 2 weeks ago, I'd say high. If you were asking me now, I'd say low. Looking at their schedule, do you think that's an okay answer?
Yeah, because their schedule gets easier.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it, and when you look at their schedule, as I pull it up, TCU, that's at home. I don't really think that should be an issue. Kansas, I mean, dude, come on. I think me and you, Paul, could beat Kansas.
Yeah, don't doubt
Texas
me.
Tech.
Not that good.
Texas Tech is not that good. Their next good game will come against Baylor, depending on if they continue to win.
One stat about Texas Tech, not even just a stat. They gave up 70 points to Texas.
I will say this for Texas. Because they started, I think, a true freshman at quarterback. I could be wrong about that. That Thompson dude came in, and ever since then, they've looked like a different Texas team. But Oklahoma won't play nobody, or they shouldn't play nobody until they play Baylor, and then at that, they got Oklahoma State to end the season out. So,
yeah.
Yeah, so their season falls in the last 3 weeks for them.
It comes week to week. Do you get what I'm saying by that? Like, you look at them, you could ask the same question every week, and I'll give you the same answer. You ask me in the next 3 weeks, what's their risk level?
Low.
I'd say worry level is low. You ask me against Baylor and Oklahoma State, I wouldn't say high, but I wouldn't say low either.
Well, when I say the last 3 weeks of their season matters the most because the Big 12 championship after that. So obviously they're going to get a rematch of somebody that's probably pretty good. They're probably going to play Oklahoma State again the way it's looking. But so I'll accept that answer. Next team. Worry level for Alabama, high or low?
Low. Low because they don't play nobody for the rest of the year. Until the SEC championship game, and we don't know what Georgia team we're going to get by then. So it could still be the same Georgia team, or injuries could happen, like Matt was talking to us about Saturday. I still remember what he was saying. He said some big injury is going to happen. He doesn't know to who, but he thinks it's going to happen. And if that happens to Georgia, say that JT Daniels is out for the year, I don't think Stetson Bennett can lead that team.
Okay. Well, the worry level that I'm talking about here is worry level to make the playoff, by the way. I should have worded it better for all these teams.
Okay, yeah, you should have said that.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Alabama, they're clear cut what they had to do.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I think their worry level is low. Do you want to go back on what you were saying about Oklahoma? Their worry level to make the playoff, high or low? I almost want to say high. They got moved up to 4.
That's where you want to say high, but you're also thinking, okay, they won every game so far, so the low would be the best answer. But I mean, it all rides on the quarterback, and I think Lincoln Riley not announcing a quarterback really hurts them.
I do too. And Ryan, worry level for Alabama to make the playoff, high or low? I'm assuming you're going to go low.
Well, I was gonna say, but now I'm thinking about it, and don't they basically need to beat Georgia in the SEC championship to get in?
Exactly the point why I put this team on there. I think their worry level for Alabama is high because they have to win out and beat Georgia. They can't afford a loss now.
Yeah, and so I'm actually going to say it's somewhat high because Georgia is so good. I mean, that's really it. They can't lose that game and still get in.
Yeah, if you asked me this last week, I would say low. But now I'm going to say it's definitely high. Worry level to make the playoff for Cincinnati, high or low?
Oh, dude. I'll let Ryan go first on this. No, you go first. I got a lot to say about this.
Well, I think naturally it's got to be high just because they are who they are,
Yeah.
We've never had a non-Power 5 get in the playoff, so it would be a new, precedent. With that being said, I think they stand a good chance to get in if they run the table, but that's really hard to do.
The reason I put this team here is this.
Yeah, pretty high.
I could see people saying low for the simple reason that they're ranked number 3 right now. Like that's the highest that a school like that has ever been ranked. So you could be thinking they went out, there's no way they take them out of the top 4, right? But I'm almost leaning towards high because they're in the American, and I don't think the committee would give them the nod over in Oklahoma or Ohio State. But, CJ, what do you have to say?
All right, I'm looking at it 3 different ways. It's high, and here's the reason why it's high. There are so many different situations that could make this horrible for UC. 1, Georgia and Alabama. Georgia goes undefeated till the SEC championship game. Alabama beats them. What in the past years, why would they not take 2 SEC teams over an unbeaten Cincinnati team? They did it at the UCF. Now, also, Oklahoma goes undefeated and wins the Big 12. They're going to take the Big 10 winner no matter what. I think everybody knows that. Either Iowa's going to go undefeated because they don't play nobody else for the rest of the year until they play either Ohio State or Penn State or Michigan State in the Big 10 championship. They go undefeated, they're in. The Big 10's in. So now, would they take Cincinnati over a Big 12 winner? I don't think so. Would they take Cincinnati over Georgia, who they lost to not even 12 months ago? I don't think so. I think at that point it'd be 2 SEC teams, Iowa and Oklahoma.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at with you. I think that even an undefeated Cincinnati would get overlooked by the committee, not necessarily by me, but I think that the committee would never give a nod to a team like that. I will say this, though, when it comes down to it. Cincinnati is in the best possible position a team not in the Power 5 has ever been to make the playoff. Do you guys agree with that?
Yes. Because they disrespected UCF the year that they were undefeated.
And beat Auburn!
They refused to move them up past, 11? I think that's the highest they got.
Yeah, and a lot of people forget Cincinnati lost to Georgia by a field goal last year. And not only that, Cincinnati was missing 4 of their best players in that game. Georgia was also missing some players, but it balances itself out. And the 5th one got ejected. Do you remember that, CJ?
Yeah, I do. It was the lineman.
Yeah, the D lineman. That was a 24-20 or O lineman. I'm sorry. It was a 24-21 game in the Peach Bowl last year against Georgia. People love to wipe their minds of that game. That was the same Cincinnati and Georgia teams. It's not like both of these teams lost a ton of people on both sides. They didn't. Desmond Ridder was the quarterback. JT Daniels was the quarterback of Georgia.
At that point, James Hudson was the best offensive lineman on Cincinnati, and he got ejected for a targeting call, I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong, but I think that's why he got ejected.
Either targeting or taunting. It was one of those two. But anyway, Ryan, worry level's got to be high, right?
Offensive linemen getting ejected for targeting would be pretty incredible.
I think it was on an interception, wasn't it? And then he...
No, it was in the back of the end zone. Something happened, and he went up and just pushed the guy down for no reason.
Yeah, it might have been...
They threw him out. I was so mad.
I think we were at Buffalo Wild Wings watching it, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, it's just an unfortunate situation because it's out of Cincinnati's hands. If they win it out, it's still out of their hands.
Well, and so CJ, did you say that 2 SEC teams would get in the playoff?
I agree with them if Alabama beats Georgia.
If Alabama beats Georgia, yes.
I agree.
Right, okay, gotcha.
That's the only way. If not, then what UC needs to hope happens.
Because Alabama loses.
Alabama has to lose. That happened, but they need to lose again. And I talked to Paul, I talked to Nate, who was on here a couple weeks ago. Matt, I said the same thing. If they don't lose 2 games, it will be 2 SEC teams.
Yeah, I agree with that take too. The absolute perfect scenario for Cincinnati for the rest of the season, the Alabama loss helped a lot. Here's the perfect scenario, I think. You take Ohio State winning out. If Iowa loses along the way, that helps, but that's not it. Ohio State wins out without losing another game. Bam. Georgia beats Alabama in the SEC championship, giving Alabama 2 losses. That knocks Alabama out of the top 4. And an Oklahoma loss would basically seal it for Cincinnati to make it.
Yeah.
At that point, I think they would get in, and then the argument would be between the other 1-loss teams of Iowa, Alabama, and Oklahoma. Or they would have 2 losses. Yeah, of Iowa and Oklahoma, which I think ultimately they would give Oklahoma the nod. But we're looking at a situation. I saw R.J. Young tweet. We all love R.J. Young. We know how he is. He tweeted, we're looking at a realistic situation of a Cincinnati versus an Ohio State versus Alabama and Georgia in the playoff. And I was just thinking about it for a second. Like, how does that add up? He's thinking the committee, if Cincinnati runs the table for the rest of the year, they put them in. And Alabama beats Georgia in the SEC championship, they'll give the nod to the Big Ten winner, who he thinks is Ohio State. And your 4 teams would be Alabama, Georgia, Cincinnati, Ohio State. First off, what would that be for the state of Ohio, CJ?
People were saying Ohio State and Cincinnati would play each other. In no way do I see that happening.
No, I don't see it happening either.
I look at it this way. So say Ohio State and UC, and the 4 teams that you just said get in, right?
Mm-hmm. They wouldn't make the SEC championship repeat.
It's going to sound stupid. UC would move to 1.
Huh?
That's more than likely that's what would happen.
No.
Because they'd be undefeated. Yes, because they'd be undefeated. Ohio State would be 2. So they're not going to play each other unless they play in the national championship. I think they'd put Georgia at 3 and Bama at 4.
I think they would make Georgia 1, Ohio State 2.
You couldn't make Georgia 1.
If I think they would have maybe Ohio State 1, Cincinnati 2, whoever won the SEC championship at 3, and whoever lost it at I guess it would be Ohio State 1, Cincinnati 2, Alabama 3, and Georgia at 4. There's no way they would do a repeat of the SEC championship in the first round of the playoff. No way. They would move it around so that does not happen. Now, let's move on to the last team. Worry level, high or low, for Penn State to make the playoff.
I personally, I thought last week, and I still do, think they're the best team with Sean Clifford in the Big Ten. But the reason it's high is because of who they had to play and what is the status on Sean Clifford. If he's out for the year, that team is, my opinion,
after their bye week, he's back. He's going to be playing.
But will he be healthy? Like, being back is different than being what you were before you left.
Yeah. I mean, I agree, but I think the worry level has to be high. But the only reason I was only going to say low is if they get to the Big Ten championship, I think they beat Iowa.
I do too.
And I think that they proved that they're the best or second best team in the Big Ten. But the thing is, they, just like Alabama, they can't get another loss.
Nope, none of them can. Ohio State can't. Alabama can't. Penn State can't. They can't. If they do, they're out. Yeah.
You agree with that, Ryan?
I agree with everything you guys said. I mean, they already have a loss. Their path their schedule is obviously hard. So, I don't see them getting in. I mean, that's going to be a major mountain to climb. I mean,
but do they have a team that the chance is not there? I don't think that it's necessarily out of the realm of possibility.
I mean, we all agree they're an outstanding team, but given that they lost
and
who they play, and the Clifford situation being a little bit up in the air,
Yeah, I agree. Now, you guys ready for trivia time? Very simple trivia this week. I'm going to name you guys a player. You tell me where they went to college, okay? It starts out easy and gets a little bit harder.
Are we taking turns or just first one to get it?
How would you guys like to do it? What do you think?
Take turns. If he gets it wrong, I get a chance. If I get it wrong, he gets a chance.
That's fair.
Okay.
CJ, you go first. What college did Drew Brees play for?
Oh.
What college did Drew Brees play for?
It was in the ACC, wasn't it?
I'm not giving a hint. This is the first question.
Of course you're not.
I know this one.
Boston College. I don't know.
Ryan, would you like to steal?
Purdue.
It is Purdue, the Boilermakers. There's good old Drew Brees right there. Now, there's one for you, Ryan. What college did Travis Kelce play for?
Yale. No, I'm kidding. Gosh, it's not a major college, I don't think. Isn't it like Cleveland something?
So, CJ, would you like the chance to steal of
Cincinnati.
what college? It is Cincinnati. Yes, Travis Kelce went to the Bearcats. Yep. He is definitely the best player to come out of Cincinnati.
Man, okay.
Didn't all the Kelce's go there, didn't
they? Jason did, and I don't know what the other Kelce was, but UC is slept on for the tight ends they put in the league.
But Travis Kelce did go to Cincinnati, Ryan, so don't doubt the Bearcats, right?
Forgot about that one.
What college, CJ, did Chris Godwin play for?
Penn State.
It is Penn State. Yeah, Chris Godwin, one of Tom Brady's favorite targets. Did in
We talked
fact.
about this last weekend.
Yeah, I think that is one of the most underrated offenses in recent years. Penn State, 2017. Trace McSorley was at quarterback, but the running backs were Saquon Barkley, Miles Sanders, and the wide receivers had Chris Godwin and what's his name? KJ Hamler, I want to say.
It was Hamler, and then
Mike Gesicki was a tight end for them. Absolutely loaded offense in college. Ryan, what college did Patrick Mahomes play for?
Texas Tech.
That is correct. See, you know, I didn't try to make it too hard on you guys. CJ, what college did Adrian Peterson play for?
USC.
Incorrect.
Oh,
Ryan, what college did Adrian Peterson play for? It's a good guess there, CJ.
Oh,
Did you remember what it was, though?
I think so.
yeah, Oklahoma.
Yeah, it is Oklahoma. Yeah, the Sooners.
I had the red right.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
won a Heisman there.
Yeah, he did. So, Ryan,
Oh.
what college did Deandre Hopkins play for?
Clemson.
That is right. Let's see. Look, I made the trivia better this week, right?
It's I mean it's easier, but yeah.
Yeah. Now's
Last
where it
week
gets
was
harder.
Good.
Dude.
What college did Rob Gronkowski play for? CJ.
Florida State, I don't know.
That's incorrect. Ryan, what college did Rob Gronkowski play for?
Arizona.
That's right, from the Pac-12. I did not expect that one either. I don't remember him being there, but CJ, what college did Le'Veon Bell play for?
It's Ryan's pick.
Oh, Ryan, what college did Le'Veon Bell
I do know
play
who
for?
he played for, but
Michigan State.
That's right, man. You know all your college players, huh?
Except Kelsey.
Except Kelsey. CJ, what college did Tyreek Hill play for?
dude, like, come on. You're giving me, like, every one that nobody knows.
I knew it.
Yeah, you knew it because you looked it up.
You don't have a guess for this one? It's one of the best receivers in the NFL. Not like I pulled a nobody.
You think I watch Sunday Night Football? Tyreek Hill. I don't know. I'm not even gonna take a guess because
Ryan, what college did Tyreek Hill play for?
I actually do not know this one either.
It is Western Alabama.
Yeah, like who's gonna know that?
Western Alabama for Tyreek Hill. That's got to be one of the best players to ever come from an FCS school, right?
Yeah.
Ryan, what college did Antonio Brown play for?
Oh, man. Who is it?
Thank you for the Tier 1 subscription, Matthew. What's up, bro? How's it going, man? What college did Antonio Brown play for? You better not be looking it up while we're sitting here.
I'm not. I'm gonna know it when I hear it, I feel like, but I can't remember.
Do you want to give CJ a chance?
Yeah.
CJ, what college did Antonio
Dude,
Brown play for?
It's something state. I just can't think of it. Oh, it's
Yeah, that really
I
hurts.
knew this
pissed
one.
me off.
I knew this one without looking it
No,
up.
no. I know it. I forget what. Give me an answer. I know it's something state.
No, it is not. It is Central Michigan, the Chippewas.
That's what it was.
Antonio Brown from the Chippewas of Central Michigan. Now here's the very last one. Got a throwback here for you guys. Ryan, you might get this one. A little bit older. What college did LaDainian Tomlinson play for? Had some of the best college seasons of all time for this school.
Now,
Nope. Ryan?
Where is it?
Any guesses?
Right, did CJ say Cal?
Yeah, he said Cal.
Yeah.
I think he was thinking of
Is it-
Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't remember.
It's actually TCU.
Really?
Texas Christian. Yeah, that was one of the ones that when I was looking up some of these, it kind of popped out to me. That was the last one I have. Now we got our predictions. So my pick record is sitting at 33-25. Ryan, you're at 28-22. I had a bad week of picks, man. My 50-50 games were not there. I got to say, I'm doing better in NFL now than I was than I am in college. But it was vice versa before that.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I think it's college. You don't pick every game. Why don't they let me pick Alabama Citadel? They don't let me. Not fair. CJ,
why are they letting
CJ's.
us pick Clemson, Syracuse?
That's because I put that on there. But CJ, you're 9-11 in picks.
Yeah, look, every week I forget to put my picks in. I'm good for the next week though. I'm good for. I'm waiting until that.
I'm gonna
Sunday
stay
comes
on you.
out where I can put them in.
I'm gonna stay on you for it. How's that?
That's fine. Because
Now, let me ask you guys a question. Okay. When was the last time Clemson football played on a Friday night? Because they are playing on Friday.
3 years ago, probably before Dabo got there.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know the actual answer to that. I'm just saying it's got to be. Clemson doesn't play on Friday.
UC don't play on Friday. They did last week.
I know. Anyway, let's get into the game here. Friday night games. Clemson is favored on the road at Syracuse by 14. Over under a 44.5. That's super low. What do you guys see?
I'll take Clemson, but I read something a couple weeks ago, right? Ungule struggled, and after the game, he went back on the field and he was working on stuff. So I think it's going to be a turning point for him. So I'll take Clemson. I'll take him to cover.
Okay. I also think Clemson wins and covers. How you feeling about this one, Ryan?
Yeah, I can't really disagree with that. They're my number 10, so.
I respect that.
I respect that too. I don't really care about the Marshall versus North Texas game. That was just the one attached to it. We don't even have to pick that.
I'll pick Marshall.
I'll take Marshall too. They're favored by 11, whatever. Speaking of Cal, though, Oregon plays on Friday night, Ryan.
Do we? I didn't realize we played Friday.
10:30 p.m. Eastern time. Cal at Oregon. Oregon getting 13.5.
That's weird. I didn't realize it was on Friday.
I didn't realize I'm going to have to stay up all night to watch your game either.
Yeah.
Cal's 1-4, right?
I mean,
you guys should win and cover.
Yeah, we should. We definitely should.
Well, what's his name is out for the first half of this game.
Oh, yeah, Thibodeau. And also, C.J. Verdell's out for the season.
Yeah. So.
I'm going to take Cal.
To win?
It sounds stupid, but yeah.
They're 1-4. I got Oregon winning and covering on this. I hope I'm right. That might be biased, but I don't think it's that biased. This isn't Aaron Rodgers, Cal.
I think covering, 13.5?
Yeah.
That's just, like, a little bit much, I would say. I'm going to say we win, but the way we're playing right now, I just don't know that we cover that, given our injuries and the Thibodeau situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think they covered by like 17. It's too crazy to say. Number 24, but yeah, Friday night game. Number 24, San Diego State plays Friday night at 10:30. They're favored by 9 on the road against San Jose State University. 3-3. I'll take San Diego State to win until they lose. I mean, they might lose. I don't really know enough about this team, I'll say.
Take San Diego State to win and cover.
Yeah, but then again, I still don't know. Now, here you go, Ryan. College game day this week. Do you know where it's at?
No. Georgia and UK.
That's college game day?
Yep, they took it away from UC.
I was going to say, originally this was in Cincinnati, and the Cincinnati game is at noon on ABC, and it's UCF at Cincinnati. Cincinnati's favored by 20.5. I'm going to take Cincinnati to win and cover because they have to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take Cincinnati to win and cover.
I think they're just not going to let off the gas because they can't afford to. They could win this game by 17 any other time or whatever, 14, but I think they're just going to keep on running the score up because they have to.
That's exactly right. I mean, I think Cincinnati, of like any team in the country, really, I mean, they've got to have the most urgency, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, they are one of the teams that especially can't have, well, a win is a win.
Yeah.
And I think that they know that, too, and Coach Fickle knows that. I don't think Cincinnati's a bad enough team to get upset by a team way worse than them, but I think that if one of the teams comes out with a really good game plan or something to counter and Cincinnati has a slow start and it ends up being too close of a game, I think that'll definitely hurt them, and I think they understand that they have to dominate. Interesting game here, CJ. Once again, Michigan State favored by less than 5 points. Michigan State on the road favored by 4.5 points at Indiana.
I'm taking Michigan State to win. I haven't been a big believer in Indiana, even last year. I heard people saying Penix was all this and that. I think he had one good game, and after that he was average at best. So I'm taking Michigan State to win this and cover.
Cover handily?
Yeah.
Gotcha. I also believe that. Kenneth Walker, see what he's got again Saturday. Ryan, how are you feeling here about this?
Is the spread again?
4.5 for Michigan State. Low.
Yeah, I think they can manage that.
I agree. Interesting game
here.
here.
Indiana seems, yeah.
Interesting game here. Do you want to say something about Indiana? I don't mean to cut you off.
Oh, I mean, it seems like they've taken a little bit of a step back. I mean, you guys know better than me, probably.
Yeah, I mean, they have. I mean, I think that last season
they were pretty good.
Yeah, last season they were pretty good, and they got robbed getting a bowl game. They should have had a New Year's Six game last year. But like I said, Indiana reminds me of the school like a Kentucky that you don't trust. You know why? Because they're not consistently good every year. Because now Indiana's sitting at 2-3 this year, and I mean, that's just how it is, I guess. I mean, I don't really trust them that much. I think Michigan State's a better school when it comes to football right now. And moving on to the next game at noon, this has an interesting game in it because the unranked team is almost favored. Auburn at Arkansas. Arkansas's favored by 3.5.
I'm going to take Arkansas in the one fact just because until Auburn decides they want to trust Bo Nix, that team will not be good until he leaves.
They don't trust him to take shots downfield or anything. And this game 3.5. I almost wanted to pick Auburn, but geez, man, this is not an easy game to pick because I think Auburn's defense is really good. I don't think their defense is that bad, but
not horrible.
It's not horrible, but I also don't really trust Arkansas. Arkansas's offense put up 51 last week, but they played Ole Miss, so that doesn't say too much for me. I think 3.5 is a good spread. I guess Arkansas by a field goal. What about you, Ryan?
Sorry, I lost you for a minute there, but are you on
Auburn at Arkansas? Yeah.
Yeah. I think, man, it's. I think they're fairly evenly matched, but I'll give Auburn an edge. I think their defense is better.
Yeah.
So I'll take them to. I didn't hear what the spread was.
3.5 for Arkansas.
For Arkansas.
Yeah.
That's kind of surprising to me, but
it's at Arkansas.
Yeah. I guess I'll take the upset then.
All right. Not too bad of a pick. We got number 20 Florida going to LSU, where Florida's favored by 10.5. This game's at noon. I have a feeling that if this game was at night, I would almost pick LSU to upset. But I'm going to go with Florida. I think Florida wins and covers, I think.
I'll agree with that. But even if it was at night, I'd still take them.
Death Valley's just really hard to play at.
Yeah, but me and you both actually thought that Kentucky was going to lose to LSU, and guess what? We were wrong.
We were wrong on that. I'll say that.
So I ain't betting on LSU anymore.
I would not be surprised if this does not cover, though. If Florida doesn't cover the 10.5.
I wouldn't be surprised either. I don't really like their quarterback, so.
Yeah, I agree. I'll take Florida, but I don't like the cover very much. I mean, like you said, LSU, that is a hard place to play. So.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree. Texas A&M, upset of the season so far. They're on the road at Missouri, where they're favored by 8.5. I think Texas A&M wins this game by 3 touchdowns, and that's not so much Texas A&M. Missouri sucks. I mean, I don't come out and say it that harshly usually, but Missouri's not good. Missouri got blown out by Tennessee. They're not good.
I'm going to agree, but they are not Vanderbilt.
They're not Vanderbilt, Ben. How are you feeling, Ryan?
Misery, huh?
Yeah, literally.
But, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, 3 touchdowns, maybe a little bit too much, but, yeah, I'll take the cover for that.
So can I remind you guys of one thing before I move on from that game? Just First off, the over-under is 60, which isn't that high. Can I remind you that last week, well, I guess 2 weeks now, Tennessee beat Missouri 62-24.
Yeah.
I still ain't taking it.
The Tennessee Volunteers won 62-24. Who do they do that to?
Missouri.
Yeah, I guess that's also true. Well, interesting game here. The next two are probably the games of the week, folks. And we got Oklahoma State at Texas. Texas is actually favored 5.5. Number 12 Oklahoma State at number 25 Texas. This is a game I've been pondering and going back and forth on. I can't decide who I think is going to win on this game.
If Texas comes out and looks how they looked last week against Oklahoma, the running back does just as good. Thompson plays good. I'd take Oklahoma to upset them.
Huh?
Or I take
Texas.
Texas.
Oh, okay. You're good.
Talking about the Oklahoma game last week. I take Texas to upset them.
Here's what I keep on going back and forth on. Oklahoma State, 5-0, right? A lot of people are high on them. They're number 12 on their list. They are the only team, remember who I told you this last week, Ryan, who out of conference did not play a single FBS school. They played only FCS schools. And given that, they've also played one less game than everybody. They're also 5-0, not 6-0. On the other hand, they beat Baylor, which is okay. I mean, Baylor's not even in the rankings, but which is okay. On the other hand, that's extended even farther, is Texas deflated after losing to Oklahoma?
I don't think so. I mean, it's a tough game to lose. But I think that's also a prove-it thing to show that you can stick with the teams. But also, UC only played 5 games.
Yeah, there's like 4 or 5 teams that played Notre Dame that all have a bye before playing them.
They just have they had their bye week like early in the season.
Yeah, and the Big Ten has some bye weeks this week. Ohio State and Penn State and Michigan all have their bye weeks.
Important. But I don't think they get deflated. I think it's a matter of who comes out and plays.
How are you feeling about this, Ryan?
I was kind of hoping we could get to this in the ranking section, but I like Texas. We had a little argument about that. Like, I had them in my rankings and you didn't.
Well, I didn't drop them too far out. Remember, they were only 21 on mine, but I just think that keeping a team in the rankings after giving up 55 points is ridiculous to me. But they also have a blowout loss to Arkansas. They're right out. They're a team that I think can get right back into the rankings.
Yeah,
but they fell out for me. They're not completely shot though. Like I don't have them like, oh, no matter what they do, they can't get in. It's more of just you gave up 55 points this week. You can come back in a couple weeks. They'd be back in the rankings. They win this game.
Yeah, I hear you. I think they're a team that's like really talented, but kind of inexperienced. They don't really know how to win, type of thing. But like I believe in their talent. I just think it's really good. I like them on both sides of the ball. They have some talent. So, I'm gonna pick them to win.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm leaning towards as well. Because Oklahoma State, we talked about them earlier in the year, where I think we were both saying that we weren't that high on them, Ryan, when we were first explaining their ranking, because we didn't have them quite as high as everybody else. Did I even pick them to lose? The 1-point win over Boise State doesn't seem that bad anymore because Boise just beat BYU.
Right.
But the touchdown win by 7 over Missouri State, that one kind of sticks with me.
Yeah, but regardless, I'm hoping to see this game. I think it'll be a really good one.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely the best game in the noon slot, it looks like. The 3:30 slot is the SEC majority, and that is Kentucky at Georgia. Number 11, Kentucky, 6-0 in the mighty SEC, going up against 6-0, number 1 in the country now, Georgia. 2 6-0 powerhouses going at it. And Georgia's favored by 23. So, somebody's not being like Cher. They're not being like the Monkeys. They're not big believers in Kentucky to keep this game very close.
I mean, you want it with how good Georgia's defense has been. I mean, the question we've had all year is, can Georgia's offense do it? And I don't know if JT Daniels is playing this game, but I'd still take Georgia to win by at least 2 touchdowns. I want to give them 20.
23 might be steep. But I think Georgia wins this game by 2 touchdowns at least as well.
Yeah, I mean, that 23 does seem a little bit steep, but I mean, I'm gonna take it. I'll take the cover. I think they are that good. I think they're the best team in college football, and I mean, allowing 5 points a game just is completely mind blowing.
Yeah, it is.
That is just outrageous, and I love their running backs. So I think they'll be great again. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I almost want to pick the cover here because it's as good as Georgia is. I also am not that big of a believer in Kentucky football. Now, this game is another weird game to pick, and this is why the pick'em scores are a lot lower than the NFL. Number 19 now, BYU 5-1 on the road at Baylor 5-1, who just got out of the rankings for losing to Oklahoma State. Baylor's favored by 6.
I picked Baylor to win this. I do have them covering.
Over BYU?
Yes. Ryan,
how do you see it?
I think I picked BYU in the pick'em.
Yeah.
I think it's a decent bounce back opportunity for them.
Yeah, to prove that we're not just a fluke. We're here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's also where I leaned. Actually, I want to say I might have picked Baylor, but that's a tough game to pick, genuinely. That game could go either way. Purdue at Iowa. Iowa's favored by 11.5. They must not believe in Iowa's offense at all.
Dude, me and you could have went and played for him at halftime at the Penn State game. That quarterback, I'm pretty sure I could have thrown a 5-yard out route just as good. I mean, I'm going to take Iowa and I'm going to take them to cover, but their offense is not impressive. They scored 3 points on the first drive because of their defense.
Yeah.
Like, not a lot of people understand. This Iowa, other than Georgia, might be the best defense in the country.
I think Penn State has a better defense than Iowa, but that's fair. That's fair. Like I said, the top 4 defenses in the country are non-debatable, and that's Georgia, Cincinnati, Iowa, and Penn State have the 4 best defenses in the country. It's not debatable. How about this one? Alabama at Mississippi State. Alabama favored by 17. I think Alabama wins and covers convincingly.
I agree, and I think this helps Alabama more than being on a bye week because they lost last week. You know Saban's not happy, and if you have to sit there through another week and not play, that just brings down the morale. I think they come into this game and Bryce Young absolutely goes off.
Yeah, it also helps that Mississippi State is just not that good. So,
yeah, I totally agree. Nothing really to add there.
How about this interesting game here from the ACC network? We got number 22 NC State 4-1 at Boston College 4-1. NC State favored by 3.
I took Boston College in the pick'em.
I think I also took Boston College. Another game that's kind of hard to pick.
Yeah, I mean, I took NC State, but I don't know a lot about either of these teams. So.
Yeah, quite frankly, I don't care about any of these teams. How about this game? Ole Miss at Tennessee. Number 13, Ole Miss. Tennessee's unranked. A 3-point spread for Ole Miss.
Is this Vegas or is this...
This is CBS Vegas line. Yes, this is Vegas. 3 points
That's
favorite
disrespectful.
for Ole Miss at Tennessee.
I thought Matt Corral was overrated, and I want to put him in the Heisman. But I'm telling you, he is going to eat the Tennessee defense up.
I also think Tennessee could put up points on those. If you haven't noticed by looking at the board, it's the highest over-under, and that's because Ole Miss is in this game. The over-under on this game is 82.
Yeah, you know why it's that? Because Ole Miss is going to put up 50.
But their defense also might give up 30, 40 points because their defense is horrible.
That's fine. They're going to put up 50.
Disrespectful or not, 3-point spread for Ole Miss over Tennessee.
Yeah, that's surprising given that, the AP has been very high on Ole Miss, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been higher than made sense to me, but, I mean...
I agree with that as well.
But I don't... I don't know why it's only 3.
You think they're believing in Tennessee? Tennessee's 4-2, but their wins are Chattanooga, Tennessee Tech, Missouri, and
Bowling Green.
Wait, what team did
Their wins are Bowling Green State, Tennessee, Chattanooga, South Carolina, Missouri. You want to hear the next 4 weeks, Paul?
Who, Tennessee's?
Yeah, you want to hear it?
Yeah. Ole Miss.
Mississippi, Alabama, Kentucky, and Georgia.
Oh, God.
So, I'm going to take I'm
going to take them to lose all 4 down the stretch.
Yep, and I'm going to take Ole Miss to cover handily.
Yeah, I think this is probably your cover game of the week, huh, Brian?
Yeah, seems like it.
I mean, do we know of a spread being this low for a team ranked in the top 15 playing an unranked? Do we know of one being this low? I can't say I remember one in recent memory.
Talk about a downgrade to your season after this week. I mean, 4-2. Yep, you're about to be 4-5.
4-6.
6. I mean, whichever one it is. I mean,
yeah, that's disrespectful. What if they don't cover? Vegas knows something we don't. That's what they always say. But TCU at Oklahoma, 7:30 on ABC. TCU's not that good. Oklahoma favored by 13.5. I'm picking Oklahoma to win and cover. Over under 65.5.
Win, but I don't want to say cover because I don't know who's starting at quarterback.
Doesn't matter for me who's starting at quarterback. TCU is not good. So hopefully Oklahoma doesn't come back to bite me in the butt. Oklahoma better show me something this week. If they don't cover this week, are you guys gonna open your eyes about them or keep being oblivious that they need to do better?
Well, I mean, if they win narrowly again, I'm going to pretty much keep them where they are unless,
teams lose. And you can't move them.
Exactly. Yeah.
But here's what I'll say. Oklahoma, they're going to win this game. I think Rattler starts this game.
I also think Rattler starts this game. They have no excuse to lose this game either. You agree? No excuse to lose this game.
The way he handles himself after he got benched is exactly how you wanted to see how he would handle himself. I think that was a growing up moment for Rattler. Now, people can call me dumb for saying that, but what quarterback who gets benched gets put in on a crucial play in the game to tie the game up? Why didn't they just keep Williams in there, right? Oh, you probably don't. I don't think you couldn't watch it. It was the 2-point conversion to tie it at 41. Instead of keeping Williams in, they put Rattler in, and he got the 2-point conversion. Lincoln Riley trusts Spencer Rattler. And I think that was just the little adversity he needed, and I think that's who he starts this week.
I think Rattler also starts. But I think their fans probably won't like that.
No, they wanted him out for 3 weeks, and that's why I hate everybody saying he sucks when that's just not the case.
Ryan, your take?
Know about that one. I mean,
You think Caleb Williams starts?
Yeah. He needs to start.
Well, I guess we will see what happens Saturday on ABC. Then the last game we got here, we have an even money line. Nobody favored right now in this game.
I'll pick Arizona State.
Arizona State at Utah, Ryan. No favorite. That's a hard game to pick, huh?
Why that is.
I mean, I think it's a hard game to pick, necessarily. Utah was in the rankings, has been pretty solid for the last few years, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah. They've been, I mean, they're really good.
And they're at home playing Arizona State.
But given how it's gone this year, Arizona State's much hotter. I don't really know why they're not favored.
Yeah, I could see that. I'm going to take Arizona State in this game. Actually, no, I think I'm picking Utah for the upset. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to go with.
I mean, it's not a bad upset pick, but...
And that's going to start at 10 o'clock for us, CJ.
I'm not watching that.
Well, Ryan, CJ, you guys got anything to just pick on that last game, or you guys taking Arizona State?
I'm taking Arizona State.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's all we got for the show tonight, everybody. Thank you for stopping by. It was a pretty good one. Thank you guys for coming by every week. You can always join the Pick'em whenever you want. Just go ahead and let me know. I want to thank CJ and Ryan for joining me once again here on the Drop the Gloves podcast. We'll be back next week. Everybody, thank you.